Rosy was born premature in Bronx Lebanon Hospital, to a mother that never wanted her birth to transpire. She was pushed by Rosy's grandfather to keep her. Rosy was born without part of her earlobe, due to her mother being kicked down a flight of stairs by her boyfriend, Rosy's biological dad, Louis. Rosy was kidnapped by her dad some months afterwards. Her mom was shopping and left the carriage unattended. That's when he struck. She called the police and had him arrested. Her mom told her a couple of conflicting stories, ranging to him wanting to sell her to a human trafficker, to wanting to take her to Puerto Rico to be raised by his new girlfriend. Rosy will never know the truth of the matter, as he never engaged in her life ever again after that. At 16, the government found him and her mother went to a child support hearing. Rosy asked to come with her so she could meet her father, but she refused. She got a check for $25 a month, but never gave Rosy any of the money. When Rosy was still not even a year old, she lost her grandfather. He fell into her crib and started turning colors. She was the last face he saw in this world. He had multiple cancers, according to her mother. He was the last person who ever loved Rosy. A dim light put out by the evil of this world. After this transpired, her stepfather, Santiago, would come and take Rosy's mother in order to groom Rosy. She was a year and a half when it was finalized. She remembers the old apartment and the day they moved in. She wore a white dress, like a church dress, with buckled shoes with flower cutouts in them. She remembers not having any underwear on underneath. She remembers the pine furniture and the smells and "I Like It Like That" being played very loudly on the speaker. It was 1988. She remembers not being able to speak, wobbling around. She had no feelings, no thoughts, nothing. She was pure. She just took in colors and experiences unbridled. She didn't speak until she was 4 years old, but she knew how to read and loved to read. She learned how to read from a GED show called Learn to Read, which aired on Channel 13 in the old days. She couldn't voice what was happening to her. She had no idea she was being neglected and abused, she just lived every day like it was normal. Her mother, when she was about 5 years old, went with her stepfather's niece, Johanna, to go get some shoes. She left Rosy alone with Santiago. This is the first instance she remembers where she was violated by him. It involved oral and him asking her if she wanted to be his girlfriend. He tried to make her swallow, but she gagged and liquid started spilling. He got angry and banged her head on the side of the tub and called her a prostitute. He persisted, along with his brother Edwin. The day of his mother's funeral, they got her in the back of a car. She doesn't remember whose car it was, she just remembers being in pain down there and them laughing at her. Edwin caught AIDS later on and died. When Rosy grew up, Santiago's other brother, Danny, tried to hit on her, too, inviting her to his apartment in Fordham Road, offering her an anklet and to sit on the bed. He touched her leg. She refused, got up, and straight away left, disappointed in humanity once more. There were many beatings, including with a fishing rod, a car antenna, and her mom even used her hair as a mop when she was in kindergarten before she caught lice. She would swing her around. Rosy would scream in terror, holding on to dear life to the couch, only to be pulled and dunked into the paint bucket, filled with water and cleaning chemicals, and swished onto the floor, back and forth. When she was 2, at the beach, her parents hosed her face with a high-pressure water hose and she couldn't breathe. They just laughed and called her a wuss.
She became deathly afraid of water for a long time after that, as well as heights. Santiago would throw her to the ceiling on purpose and act like he wouldn't catch her, because he relished in her screams. Her mother beat her arms with a stick after Rosy put shaving cream in her sleeve at 5 years old. Rosy had and still has a fascination with textures. Rosy told Miss Owens, the kindergarten assistant teacher, about what her mom did. She called ACS and they came to her home, but saw it was decked out with fancy electronics and closed the case. Rosy could not escape. She felt like she was drowning. Her mom beat her again for telling and threatened to end her if she told again. Rosy was very afraid. Santiago told her that as a group home guard, he saw kids get violated in the group home, and that there were giant rats that would eat her, that if she told, she would be hurt and even die. Rosy got terrified and did not want to go there. The system would continue to fail her as time moved on. Rosy became very quiet. At 8 years old, a new rule was implemented. She wasn't allowed to talk to people at all. She wasn't allowed to look up straight. This was enforced. Every time she looked up, she got beaten. Every time a friend came to say hello, she got beaten. Rosy learned that no one could help her. All they did was get her in trouble. Kids mocked her in school and went up to her on purpose so she would get beaten. She was the most hated kid in middle school.
30 kids from her class marched yelling, "Skippy girl," in 6th grade. A kid named Brian threw chicken wings at her in front of her mom. Rosy got whipped. Every time the kids marched out and chased her and her mom, she got beaten, every single day. Rosy couldn't even wear plain clothes. Kids would throw her in the garbage can, pour milk on her and throw her down the stairs. Rosy was barely 50 pounds, at 4 foot 3 inches at 12 years old. She was invisible. No one could see her, no one wanted to help her. She was an untouchable. Nowhere was safe. She soon stopped playing outside because her parents would come spy on her in the yard. One day she was talking to a tree, and she got beaten because they kept insisting she was talking to a person. She sat in the cafeteria and read books. This was her only point of solace. Her inner world. Where she could be free to be anyone she wanted and no one could come beat her or make fun of her. Inside her mind, she could say what she pleased and no one could change her mind or know what she was thinking. During her teenage years, when the lectures got to hours long as 6 hours long, her stepfather would seat her in front of him and talk and indoctrinate her for hours on end without a break. Her mind would drift to her interior world and she refuted everything he said. She wasn't going to let him mold her. He could not control her for long. One day she would be free. And so her rebellious self was born.